The crowd cheered loudly as the huge monster, once feared by sailors, showed its affection for Ohala. The warriors froze, holding their weapons loosely, in disbelief at what was happening. The monster's sharp teeth, which had once torn through boats, sparkled harmlessly as it emitted a deep, rumbling sound. People were shocked and happy, clapping for Ohala, who had tamed the beast. King Imani approached, looking amazed. "This is incredible," he said. "This girl has tamed the creature that has troubled us for many years." He turned to Ohala, who trembled, her heart racing beneath her old dress. "What is your name, child?" "Ohala, your majesty," she whispered, bowing her head. The king smiled warmly. "Ohala, you have saved our people. From this day forward you shall be honored in Okasiwa." "Your majesty, what about her smell?" the queen asked, clearly uninterested in the idea of Ohala being invited to the palace. She opposed it, not only because of Ohala's odor, but also out of fear that the king might discover the truth. The maidens who knew Ohala's secret glanced at the queen in shock, hoping she would confess. But once again, she dismissed Ohala. "The girl's smell must be accepted. She is our hero, and she will be greatly rewarded," the king declared. A murmur of agreement spread through the crowd. The same villagers who had once thrown stones at her now looked at her with wonder. Even the children who had mocked her crept closer, their fear of the monster outweighing their disgust at her smell. Queen Tapilwa looked pale, her fingers tightening around her robe as her nails dug into the fabric. Malenga, one of her oldest servants, hesitated before stepping forward. She had served the queen for years, but felt guilty about what had happened to the princess that night. "Your Majesty," Malenga said softly, "there's something you need to know." Queen Tapilwa turned sharply toward her, her eyes filled with silent warnings. "Not now." Malenga hesitated, but the king noticed and asked, "What is it?" Trying to hide her worry, Queen Tapilwa laughed lightly. "Oh, my dear husband," she said, "Malenga was just going to say that this girl, Ohala, is the daughter of a fisherwoman. Nothing more." She glared at Malenga, her look sharp enough to silence her. Malenga lowered her eyes, too afraid to speak. The king was happy and didn't ask further questions. He turned back to Ohala and said, "We must thank the fisherwoman for raising such a brave girl." He signaled to his guards, "Bring Ohala to the palace. She will dine with us tonight as our honored guest." The crowd cheered again, but two people were unhappy. Princess Imani, the stolen child who had been raised in luxury, stood at the edge of the crowd, her delicate features twisted in confusion. She had always believed she was the king and queen's true daughter. But as she watched Ohala, something inside her stirred. Later that evening, as she wandered the palace corridors, she overheard whispers from the maidens' quarters. "I can't believe the queen still denies it. Everyone saw how the beast reacted to her," one maiden said. "It's true, isn't it? That girl, she's the real princess." Imani's blood ran cold. She pressed herself against the wall, her heart hammering. No, it couldn't be. But now the seed of doubt had been planted. That night, as she lay in her silk-covered bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind raced. If Ohala was the true princess, then who was she? Meanwhile, Ohala sat awkwardly in the grand dining hall, unused to the golden plates and rich foods placed in front of her. The king smiled kindly, asking her questions about her life. "And your mother, the fisherwoman, she raised you well?" Ohala nodded. "She was the only one who never turned away from me." The queen's grip on her glass tightened. Just then, a servant rushed in breathless. "Your Majesty, the crying statue has stopped weeping." A stunned silence fell over the room. The king stood up. Another sign, the land is healing. But as the celebrations continued, Ohala noticed the queen's cold stare. In her chambers, Queen Tapilwa scrubbed her hands raw with lavender soap again. She'd done this daily since Ohala returned, scrubbing until her skin stung as if she could wash away her sins. In the shadows, Imani watched, her heart filling with jealousy and dread. That night, as Ohala slept in a guest chamber, the sea outside roared louder than usual. Waves crashed against the shore as if in warning. Far beneath the water, something ancient and powerful stirred. The monster had been calmed, but it was not the only thing awaiting in the depths. The queen, however, had no intention of letting the truth come out. As days turned into months and months into years, both Ohala and Imani grew into young women. The land of Okasiwa returned to normal. Men peacefully crossed the sea without the creature's interference in search of food. The land now had an abundance of resources. Once in a while, Ohala would go to the sea and play with the creature, while other villagers gathered to watch this unbelievable moment. Outside, children played on the beach, their laughter mixed with Ohala's joyful shrieks as she splashed with the monster. The queen watched, her mouth tasting of bile, as the beast nuzzled the girl like a pet. At this point, everyone was happy, except the queen and Imani. They both hated Ohala, feeling bitter that the king loved her so much. Every time the queen saw Ohala, the old prophecy echoed in her mind like a nightmare. The true princess will smell of the sea, and the monster will kneel. She remembered the night Ohala was born, how the baby's strange, fishy smell had made her stomach turn. Now that smell filled the throne room, strong as rotting shellfish at low tide, reminding her of her terrible secret. Over the years, he enjoyed her presence and treated her like his own daughter. Princess Imani watched with growing bitterness as Ohala took her place in the king's heart. At the harvest feast, Imani sat fuming, as servants placed the best meats before Ohala, while her own golden plate held only scraps. The king roared with laughter when Ohala described wrestling an eel. Its skin was slick as wet silk, but barely glanced up from his wine when Imani performed her carefully practiced harp song. Worst of all were the whispers that followed her through the palace halls. "Did you hear? The fishermen say only the true princess could tame the beast. I heard Mulenga crying last night, something about a stolen child. Look at her nose. Nothing like the king's, is it?" That night, when the palace slept, Imani slipped out barefoot. She crept past the moonlit docks where fishermen worked on their nets, past the beached boats that smelled of tar and salt, until she reached a place where the waves turned the rocks black with their constant pounding. The witch's hut leaned unsteadily over the cliff edge, its walls patched with driftwood and seaweed. The smell of rotting fish and burned hair made Imani gag as she pushed through the ragged curtain door. Mumba the bone reader sat hunched over a bubbling pot, his needle-sharp teeth gleaming in the firelight. "Ah," he hummed, stirring the foul-smelling broth with a human fingerbone. "The false princess comes begging." "I want Ohala gone," Imani demanded, trying not to breathe through her nose. Mumba laughed loud and sharp, like hungry seagulls. "The sea gives and takes, little liar. Kill one monster." He showed a cracked jar with a slimy creature inside. "And another may come." Imani was consumed by jealousy and felt the only way was to seek a dark force, unknowingly awakening something worse than the sea monster.